Good morning, everybody. Good morning. That was good. Where did that come? I like that. Thank you. Well, delighted to be here. Thank you all for joining us at the second South by Southwest Eco. How cool is that, right? Let's get a round of applause. Very excited. So we have 15 minutes, and I was just informed Q&A can happen as well. So I'm going to try and maybe be shorter than 15 minutes, so a couple questions you might be able to get to. So let's dive right in. Solutions and innovation. Wanted to start a little bit with a story about this young man on the screen in front of you. That's my grandfather, Jacques Cousteau. And it was someone that inspired me growing up very much in all the work that I do. And a lot of people don't know, though, that my grandfather, though he became known for exploration in oceans and traveling the world and his films and documentaries, he started out not interested in oceans, not with a passion at all for oceans. He actually wanted to be a pilot in the French naval aviation program. And it was a car accident where he broke his back on the windy roads of southern France that dashed his dreams of being a pilot. He was washed out of that program and was told to swim in the Mediterranean every day to rehabilitate himself so that he could walk again. And his captain, a man named Philippe, who my father, Philippe Cousteau Sr., was named after, and thus so am I, he gave him a pair of goggles. This was very hip, cutting-edge technology at the time. You had to pretty much home make these with ground-down glass and old tires to wrap around them and make the straps. And my grandfather was fascinated with this world. I like to call it the most fortuitous car accident probably in history that then caused him to explore the oceans. And he was curious, and he saw a problem. He realized that the only people that really ever explored the ocean were the guys walking around with the big old metal helmets, you know, like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and the hose to the surface, and the big lead boots. No real freedom to swim and explore the ocean. So he tackled this problem and co-invented the aqualung with an engineer named Émile Gagnon and ushered in a whole new era of exploration. But if there's anything that I believe my grandfather stands for, it is innovation. And that legacy stands for innovation of Cousteau. And he saw problems throughout his life, and he sought to find innovative solutions to those problems. And today, we face a whole series of problems that are pretty daunting. My grandfather always told me, and the funnies, the comics is my favorite part of any newspaper. So I had to share this with you. This is one of my favorites. Spot the hidden history lesson here. My grandfather always told me that the world is changing drastically, and it really is. When he started out his exploration, it was about filming and documentaries and discovery. And it wasn't until he came back in the 1960s from expedition after 20 years of his work and said it had changed so much from the early days in the 40s in the Red Sea and the Mediterranean. He came back from expedition. He said it's no longer about discovery. It is about conservation, because he saw this happening in his own time. And as we know today, the typical solutions we all expect and think about and have been looking to, we're coming up on or just past the 40th anniversary of the Clean Water Act, which was passed with bipartisan support, as was the Clean Air Act, and is now under extreme onslaught in Congress. And so some of the traditional places we turn to enact legislation that is in our best interests and protects the environment maybe aren't the types of solutions anymore. And this says, for those of you who can't see it, these are two guys being hung upside down in a torture chamber. They gave me a choice. It was either this or watch political debates, particularly appropriate perhaps tonight. So the traditional places we might look for solutions just aren't sufficient. Certainly being involved in the environmental movement all of my life, and my grandfather being a pioneer in that also, that movement is, while powerful and critical, insufficient, I believe, to face up to the challenges that we are looking at going into the future. So when I think about solutions, I wanted to break it down into three in particular. And those break down to women and youth, Wall Street, oddly enough, and education. And I'm going to dive right into what I mean by that. So, women and youth, the first pillar of this discussion. Let's think back a little bit. In 0 AD, there were about 200 million people on this planet. Almost 2,000 years later, in 1900, we had 1.6 billion people on this planet. This year, we passed 7 billion people, and by the middle of this century, it's estimated by the United Nations we'll have anywhere between 9 and 9.5 billion people on this planet. So if you look at that curve, it should actually be like a bell curve. It's a pretty incredible increase in the last 100 years of population. Now, what happens when you shove too many people into a bank vault? You know, you have 1 or 2 people, they can probably last a couple days, right? If you have too many people in there, the oxygen runs out. And I got to tell you, folks, we're running out of oxygen. And by oxygen, I mean natural resources. And we are piling more and more people on this planet, and the status quo just is incapable of keeping up with the challenges we face. So, developing world is growing rapidly while our population is declining. This is us in Indonesia on a project we did for my series on CNN International just a few months ago on deforestation in Sumatra, specifically in Indonesia. But we look at how many people are on the planet, specifically in parts of the world that are unable and least prepared to deal with the challenges of climate and declining water accessibility and clean water issues, disease, etc. We got big problems. And yet, if population, one can argue, is one of our biggest challenges, then the key to solving that problem is investing in women and children. My grandfather always told me this growing up. Back in the 80s, we were little, we'd have dinner when he came to visit New York, and he was a total visionary, way ahead of his time, way ahead of the, you know, it's trendy to talk women and girls now. He was talking about it back then and drilled it into my head. He said, you know, we cannot have environmental sustainability without human sustainability. And the single greatest way to build human sustainability is to invest in women and children. And this graph is a perfect example. It talks about the relationship between how many children the average woman has right here and their education level right here. And you can see for yourselves, there's a pretty strong correlation that when you give women education, access to opportunity, knowledge, and family planning power, they choose to have fewer children. And by having fewer children, it puts less strain on their local environments. And when you empower women with education and investment, what do they spend their money on? They spend it on health care, spend it on education for their children, they spend it on food. Sorry, guys, but our track record isn't quite so positive sometimes on what we tend to spend some of our money on, and especially around the world. Leave it at that. So the investment in women and children is an absolute critical investment and focus as we move forward to build that human sustainability and achieve environmental sustainability. So the second pillar, Wall Street. Now, the 1-year anniversary of Occupy Wall Street just came up and was pretty auspicious date. Unfortunately, I don't think we achieved quite as much as we would have liked with that, but I believe there's a lot of opportunities with Wall Street. And I wanted to share this quick graph with you. This represents $25 trillion. That's how much money is in the financial sector in the world today. This tiny little sliver, 0.3%, is charitable giving, about $300 billion a year. This 12.5% is what's invested in impact investing. It represents about $3 trillion. And the rest is what's just general investment. So I'm not saying philanthropy isn't important, but it's insufficient to deal with the challenges we have. And the opportunity to leverage Wall Street and look at impact investing and how we leverage our dollars is absolutely critical. And in response to that, we announced a program 4 months ago on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol GIVE, which is a brand new exchange-traded fund with a sustainable mandate that anybody can buy a share of, or as many shares as you want. I bought mine on E-Trade, where a percentage of that money goes into a charitable foundation. Nothing like it exists. And there's part of this movement of impact investing, and I urge all of you to be thinking about how you can leverage your dollars and leverage Wall Street to do good. The last one, education. Earth Eco International, a nonprofit we've been running for about 8 years, really focuses on the power of youth. Fundamentally, what we need is a social and society behavior shift. And the only way we can do that, I believe, is to empower young people. If you think about the last time you saw a billboard that said something you didn't agree with, did you go, I'm convinced, I'm completely going to change my mind now thanks to that billboard or thanks to that public service announcement? Probably not. Adults are very hard to affect change. Young people are much easier, and they're engaged, they're already fired up, and you wouldn't believe the incredible power that young people have not only to grow older and affect change, but to influence adults now. Also, here at South by Southwest, we're thrilled to be using technology and leveraging technology, and we have a press conference to announce a very exciting development. We partnered with University of Virginia and my company, Azure Worldwide, another company I run, to develop and leverage technology like video games and agent-based simulation games to help people understand the complexities of water, things like watersheds, in a very simple and fun way, and help everybody understand, and it works, how we are all partners in this world together and how we all need to work together, something that I think Congress could use a nice lesson in terms of solving our problems. So those are my solutions. How much time do we have left? Like a minute? 4 minutes? Whew. I did well. I cut out a few things so we can get to Q&A. Those are the solutions, in my opinion, 3 critical solutions as we move forward. Environmental education, empowering young people to change the world today and tomorrow. Any questions? Yes?
I just came from the Blue Ocean Film Festival, Eco Conservation Summit, and there was actually a lot of talk about using media, including interactive media such as games, to engage youth and people who would not necessarily be engaged in conservation. Can you speak a little bit more about this game here?
Absolutely. You know, I'm a big media storyteller guy. I have a series on CNN International. I'm a special correspondent. All the Earth Echo, one of the leading youth environmental education groups in the country. I'm all about media and education. This game is a simulator. It's the first of its kind. It was developed initially for the Chesapeake Bay by the University of Virginia in partnership with my company, Azure Worldwide, and it is the first agent-based simulator game that takes an entire watershed and allows individuals to play different stakeholders within that watershed over a period of 20 years to see and try and balance the social and environmental development and improve the health of the bay. And we've done everything from high school students to policymakers, and it is a real aha moment that comes through in using these games, because you can compress timescales, you can allow people to see the impact of their actions in real time, essentially through a game that's based on tens of thousands of data points and good, solid science. And it's been so successful, we're announcing something today that's very exciting at the press conference. I don't want to talk about and let it out today, right now, but at 3 or 3:30 we're having a press conference. And then we're also going to be doing a gameplay. You can go to southbysouthwesteco.com and sign up. On the homepage, I believe, still, we're doing 2 gameplays tomorrow, one at 10:30. I encourage you to join us, and one again at 3:30. Thank you. The first one's at 10, and then at 3:30. So please, you can go to the homepage, South by Southwest Eco, and sign up. It is, not only is it interesting and it's about watersheds, it's a heck of a lot of fun. And we're gonna make it even extra fun. We're gonna have some prizes and some good things going on tomorrow morning and tomorrow afternoon. One more question? You gave me 2, so I'm gonna hold you to that. Quick, short question. Yes?
Do you have the opportunity to speak with any youth in Austin while you're here and getting them on the internet?
You know, unfortunately, we tried to make it work to go and visit a school, but we didn't, just because our schedule, the 2 days here, I'm so packed.
I'm at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning.
I like that. That was a setup. That's for a question, not a setup. You know, honestly, we looked at schedule, and everything is packed from morning breakfast all the way through to the afternoon. But we are looking at maybe doing Texas, so I'd like to talk to you afterwards. Doing Texas as a pilot community for Earth Echo and some of the citizen journalism work we're doing and the citizen service learning work that we're doing. We're really looking at working here in Austin, actually, specifically, and Texas. So we'd love to talk, because we'll be back in town. So can't do it this trip, but definitely next time, because I love going to schools. That's the most exciting thing. I guess that's all the time we have, guys. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.